border agency comes under fire over its handling of the flood of migrants coming across the Mediterranean, while member nations vow to destroy the ships used to traffic refugees. Pressure on Washington to reveal the full details of drone strikes which accidentally killed American and Italian hostages being held in Pakistan. Plus, dumping waste into a fjord. The Norwegian government is accused of trading nature for profits after approving a massive, controversial mining project. Your Worldwide News, live from Moscow. It's RT International with me, Rory Souchet. From all of us here, welcome to your news. EU leaders have vowed to destroy trafficking vessels before they're used to carry illegal immigrants across the Mediterranean to Europe. Funding for search and rescue operations will be tripled to 120 million euros. So far, though, the EU has stopped short of military action, saying it wants a UN resolution first. Member nations did pledge to send more ships and planes to the Mediterranean. The UK will deploy its naval flagship, the HMS Bulwark, 2 patrol vessels and 3 helicopters. France, Germany, Belgium and some other EU members are also sending ships. And Europe is being forced to act in the midst of criticism over how it's been handling the immigrant crisis. Well, that was the rather tense welcoming which greeted the head of the EU border agency Frontex in Berlin. Frontex was founded 10 years ago in order to improve management of Europe's external borders.
Technical equipment supplied by the member states includes coastal and offshore patrol vessels, aeroplanes and helicopters, thermal vision vehicles, patrol cars and small pieces of border control equipment.
And while EU leaders were pledging to crush human traffickers, funerals were being held for refugees who drowned in the worst migrant disaster yet in the Mediterranean. 24 coffins were laid out at a memorial held in Malta, the only bodies recovered from the capsizing, which claimed around 900 lives. They were fleeing from war-torn Libya. But now the French president admitting the chaos in Libya should have been prevented.
It is a fact that Libya is not managed anymore, not even governed anymore. It is experiencing chaos, and the question is, how is it that after an intervention which took place more than 3 years ago, there has been no reflection on what should happen after? So now we need to fix yesterday's mistakes.
Amnesty International was not too happy with the plan to help migrants, or the plan laid out by officials in Brussels. In fact, the organization slammed it as a face-saving, not a life-saving mission. While the Refugee Council stressed nothing would help if migrants are simply sent back to the violence they'd tried to escape from in the first place.
كان حياة حلوة بس يعني كنت بدرس مدرستي بس يعني كنا تحت القصف يعني.
كل واحد بياخذ القرار بيكون يائس يعني من كل شيء يائس ما بعرف. حسيت حالنا خسرنا كل شيء يعني ما بقى يعني يا بنعيش سوا يا بنموت سوا.
In the meantime, British Prime Minister David Cameron says migrants picked up at sea shouldn't be able to go straight to the UK. In fact, here's what he said to reporters in Brussels.
That must include that people that we pick up and people we deal with are taken to the nearest safe country, most likely Italy, and don't have immediate recourse to claim asylum in the UK.
Anti-war activist Mike Raddy believes the UK is simply not doing enough to help the refugees.
It makes me ashamed to be British, actually, because we should be doing so much. We've destroyed these countries, we've destroyed their infrastructure, and we've destroyed their children's future, and we're doing absolutely nothing to help them. If we want to look at who's to blame for all this, it's pretty simple. In Africa as a whole, millions of people fleeing the continent. It seems wherever NATO, British, American troops go, civilians flee. This has happened in Iraq, in Syria. Now it's life or death. You either get on a boat and risk your life, or it's certain death if you stay there.
Well, coming up here on RT International, how to get your kid into an Ivy League school. If you are a Sony CEO, the answer appears simple: just hand over wads of cash. More on the latest revelation coming out of the hack on Sony a bit later in the program. The White House is under pressure to disclose the full details of events that led to the death of 2 Western hostages in a U.S. drone strike in Pakistan. On Thursday, President Obama revealed that American and Italian captives were accidentally killed in the CIA operation, though this is far from the first time that civilians have been the casualties of the war on terror. Mengenai now looking at some of the stories that received a little bit less media attention.
A U.S. drone strike killed 2 innocent people in Pakistan. News like this rarely makes headlines, but this time it was different. The victims were an American and an Italian.
Breaking news, an apology from the U.S. Commander-in-Chief, President Barack Obama, for the deaths of 2 innocent hostages.
America made a deadly mistake.
It's a terrible tragedy.
How did this happen, and what should we do about the threshold?
Are they doing enough to find where the hostages are and to protect their lives?
The White House says the drone killed the American and Italian hostages in January while targeting an Al-Qaeda compound. U.S. officials say they didn't know the hostages were there.
As President and as Commander-in-Chief, I take full responsibility for all our counterterrorism operations, including the one that inadvertently took the lives of Warren and Giovanni.
Heartfelt regrets at the White House and pressing questions in the media. You hear none of that when U.S. drone strikes kill innocent Yemenis or Pakistanis. The U.S. government has defended the strike, saying the collateral damage is minimal. But the Bureau of Investigative Journalism estimates that in Pakistan alone, within the last 10 years, up to 960 civilians have been killed in U.S. drone strikes, including 207 children.
The U.S. government doesn't care about living, breathing human beings in Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, or elsewhere, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, doesn't care. Everyone killed, with very, very few exceptions, by the Obama drone assassination program is, by definition, a militant.
A family from Pakistan went to Washington 2 years ago to bring attention to the civilian casualties from drone strikes. I saw only 3 lawmakers who came to meet them on Capitol Hill. This girl was playing near her grandmother when she was struck and killed by a U.S. drone.
When the drone hit, I was outside with my grandmother. Everything became dark. I was scared, so I started to run. Then I noticed my hand was bleeding, so I tried to clean my hand, but blood kept coming out. But I was very scared, so I just kept running.
Officials and media are giving their full attention to the killing of the American and Italian hostages, as they should. But what about those innocent people whose voices will never be heard by Americans or Europeans? Those who are so broadly and bureaucratically labeled as collateral damage in the war on terror. Do their lives matter less? In Washington, I'm Tekanan, RT.
When pressured on the civilian cost of drone strikes, the White House previously insisted that attacks are never carried out unless there's absolutely sufficient information about the target.
U.S. counterterrorism operations are precise, they are lawful, and they are effective. Before we take any counterterrorism strike outside areas of active hostilities, there must be near certainty that no civilians will be killed or injured.
But RT earlier spoke with a former drone pilot. He claimed that sometimes there was little or even no information about who or even what was being targeted.
We killed people that we really didn't know who they were, and there was no oversight. And I just know that the inside of the entire program was diseased. I actually talked with a lady whose husband was killed, whose husband and brother was killed in a drone strike. I talked to her face to face, and she asked me why her husband and brother had to die, and they weren't bad guys. And I just looked at her and I said, I don't know. And that's not really the best thing that I can tell someone who's asking questions about why someone that they cared about was killed, and they need to know the answers. And the really hard answer to say is that I'm sorry that a mistake happened, and I'm doing everything that I can to prevent further mistakes from happening.
And for more analysis and reaction to the killing of the foreign hostages in Pakistan, head over to RT.com.